Algier out to the 35. This time London. He held on. Bijan going to slip through and score. Bates blocking. Jesse Bates interception. 15, 10, 5. Drive home safely.
Falcons fans, welcome back to Falcons Final Whistle. We have an incredible and exciting Sunday night football game to break down. The Atlanta Falcons won on the road against the Minnesota Vikings 22-6. And boy, you talk about a performance that really should leave a positive taste on a lot of fans' mouths, because Raheem Morris likes to say that identity is born out on the field, and I think that this was an identity-defining game for the Falcons in one of the toughest environments in the NFL. So that's kind of what I'm going to start off with. If you're new to this season's version of Falcons Final Whistle, a quick rundown. We're going to give 4 quarters of review of tonight's game, and tonight's going to be a little bit different because Tori McElhaney is in Minnesota. She was on site covering this game. She's going to join me for quarters 2 and 3 and kind of give her thoughts from location after talking to Raheem Morris and kind of getting his thoughts on the game. So right off the jump, though, I want to just kind of get into why this game just felt so different in kind of the best possible way and answered a lot of questions that I think Falcons fans needed to see from this group. And it's early on in the season, but to put together a game like this where in week 1, I felt like Atlanta was the better team. I said that kind of up top, and I, with more distance, yes, they were the better team, but they lost kind of because they shot themselves in the foot in some of the similar ways that we have seen Falcons teams do in years past. Tonight, they won this game despite the mistakes they were making because they came up with the clutch plays, and they came up with the clutch plays against a really good team in their home environment. And yeah, the offense had to lean on the defense. I am willing to be patient with the offense to give them time to figure things out. A, because offense is a little bit harder. You do have a new quarterback in there. It's going to take some time to adjust. Didn't get much from Drake London and Darnell Mooney tonight. That's fine. I expect them to be just okay throughout the rest of the season. But we didn't need to, because this defense, the defense that everybody has been so worried about, pulling their hair out all offseason about, man, they shut the Vikings down tonight. Are you kidding me? This was a great performance. They did not allow a touchdown. J.J. McCarthy completed only 11 passes. The leading rusher in this game, 30 yards. I mean, in every single way you want to look at it, Atlanta's defense stepped up. And that is what I always needed to see from this team, is the ability to win in multiple ways, because that's kind of the secret sauce to it all, right? You can talk about defense wins championships. You need a good run game. I've always believed that really the key to success, especially in the postseason, is being able to play in a variety of ways, or play left-handed, as kind of Bill Belichick used to like to say, because that is what teams are going to do. They're going to take away the things you like to do best. And so tonight, I kind of felt like Atlanta's downfield passing game was once again non-existent, but I have to believe that that is the part of the game that Minnesota was really trying to take away. Now, I'm going to have to go back and watch the All-22 because the broadcast angle doesn't do the best job of showing you all the coverages out there. So, I asterisk this take a little bit. But if that was the case, then Atlanta's offense did exactly what it needed to do, right? And I kind of think the Vikings wanted to play this style of game. The Falcons adapted, realized what kind of game they were in, and said, all right, we'll beat you at this one too. And to see that they have the components to be able to kind of retool on the fly there and slide right into the moment and then dominate it was so good. And it doesn't mean that every single week is going to look like this moving forward, right? But to know that they have this pitch this early in the season is something that you make a little tally on when you are providing reasons why this group can be that surprise team in the NFC. There's one every year, right? So why not the ones that just went into Minnesota, knocked off a team that was one of the very best in your conference last year, and you looked really good doing it and answered a lot of questions. I also thought the kicking game, right? We talk about kind of night and day differences between week 1 and week 2. What about Parker Romo, right? Up until Tyler Allgeier's fourth quarter touchdown to cement the game, he was it, baby. He had a field goal for every day that he was a member of the Falcons. leading into this game, which is crazy. So no idea where that leaves everything with the kicking battle, but Parker Romo answered every single question, and he did it at the perfect time. So he was nails tonight. The defense was nails tonight. I thought Michael Penix Jr. did a great job kind of doing everything that was needed of him again in a tough environment. So an impressive performance and kind of a different performance than we usually say is impressive from the Falcons, right? We're used to shootouts. We are sometimes used to defense, but not a pure defensive battle like this. This felt like a Jets game from the last couple of years. So it's nice to know that Jeff Ulbrich still has this and brought it to Atlanta because the defense looks so good. And I have a feeling that that is what Tori and I are going to talk about here in 1 second when we start our second quarter. So let's go ahead and get on into that. Tori, nice to see you. You look well. Very excited after a big win. How is the environment up there in Minnesota?
Oh my gosh, it was crazy. I think that the Vikings fans just in general, like I've been to this stadium a couple of times now and it always shocks me how loud it is, how much of a almost SEC environment it is. So I think that it was honestly one of those things that you knew it was going to be a problem early on, and it was, but you have to give the Falcons run game specifically credit for kind of holding down the fort for long enough to really get this thing going. But honestly, the story of this game is the defense. And I feel like I can't overlook what they were for this group.
Yeah, let's start with the defense. We can get to the run game as well, but do you want to real quick explain to our listeners why you're whispering a little bit right now?
Yeah, so I'm currently in the visiting team press conference room. I'm in between Raheem Morris's press conference and Michael Penix Jr.'s press conference. So if I say, "Hey guys, Mike is coming in," and I log out, don't worry, I'll come back on.
All right. Well, yeah, I really wish I was sitting next to you for this game because I feel like this is just one that we would have sunk our teeth into.
Yes.
What did you make of this defensive performance? It was not one that I expected necessarily, but I'm not necessarily surprised either.
So here's the thing is it was everything that you wanted it to be when you drafted those 4 guys in 2025, back in April, back in May, when you bring in Jalen Walker, James Pierce Jr., Xavier Watts, Billy Bowman Jr., like this performance today was why you got those guys. It's the manifestation of this youth movement on defense in Atlanta. It's something I'm super excited to get into the locker room and talk to some of these guys about what today was and how meaningful it was to see some of these young guys. Heck, even Zach Harrison, even Rukaroro, even Brandon Dorless. All of these names are all guys who are under 25 playing for this defense and playing to a clip that I don't think we've seen since the early 2000s with this Atlanta Falcons team.
No, and I mean, those were some really fun defenses back in the day, but you're right. And Tori, I think I was wrong, honestly, going into this offseason. If you had asked me, what do the Falcons need to add on defense? I would have said, you need to get some guys who are going to kind of play some of those foundational roles for you and be those connective tissues and building blocks to allow Caden Ellis and Jesse Bates and AJ and your stars to kind of be stars. Instead, they're kind of AJ Terrell, David Onyemata, Jesse Bates, Divine Diablo. They're your glue. They are your core on defense. And these young pieces are the ones making the flashy standout plays. And I freaking love it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's so funny too, because I was joking on Twitter during the game that our creative team and posting all of these graphics of milestones was just churning them out because you're talking about Brandon Dorless, James Pierce Jr., Jalen Walker, Billy Bowman Jr., Xavier Watts, I believe Rukaroro. Like there were so many guys who had firsts for this defense. And I think it's honestly like, and I even asked Raheem Morris this about Rukaroro and Brandon Dorless specifically. These are 2 guys who, let's be honest, this is kind of an extension of their rookie year. To see them have the start that they did in these first 2 games in a year where you do not have the veteran leadership of Grady Jarrett anchoring that interior defensive line, like it just shows me that the Falcons defense as a whole, the defensive unit as a whole is heading not just in the right direction, but they are maybe a step ahead, 2 steps two steps ahead from where I thought they would be at this point in time. And we talked, last week about how close they were on certain plays, like so close, inches,
Yeah.
milliseconds close.
Finishing. They needed to.
The
Yep.
Yeah, this was something that completely flipped on its head this time around against a very difficult Minnesota offense that we saw what they did against the Bears on Monday Night Football last week. I honestly, I think that if you're this defense, you leave this game with absolute, like, a chip on your shoulder in the best way possible, that, hey, you're young, but you showed that the youth movement is real in Atlanta.
Yeah, in the first quarter, I kind of talked about how this game felt like a little bit of a flipped version from week one. And you're talking about making those plays in the moments where adversity was going against you. And I think a really great example of that was in the first half. I think it was the second quarter when Minnesota was really putting together their best offensive drive, and JJ McCarthy kind of throws a beautiful out route against AJ Terrell to Jalen Naylor and moves him down like deep into Falcons territory. And the defense then responds with, I think, like back-to-back sacks to get him to kind of force the field goal. And I was just like, wow, what a moment to stand up with your back against the wall in a pitcher's duel, right? And that's what this game was. And so for the defense to kind of emerge in this way at this time, again, in this environment, like, hats off to Jeff Ulbrich and his group.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. And there was another moment, to start the fourth quarter, the way that they did with, I believe that was when the strip sack happened, or was that the start?
And Zach Harrison, another player. Yep.
Yeah. So sorry, everything's kind of running together as I'm going through this, but like that moment
30 seconds
was a
left.
absolute tone setter for how this game was going to end. And I think the fact that like it was that for this team was pretty impressive. Also, Mike's coming in, so I'll call y'all back.
Tori is back. She has spoken with the starting quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons, Michael Penix Jr. Tori, do you want to start with what Raheem Morris had to say, or what you just heard from Mike about tonight's game?
Let's talk about Mike because it's fresh in the brain. I'm literally just coming off of that. A big part of his conversation was about the run game. I mean, I think that you can't talk about this game without talking about what this run game was. And I asked him about the specific moment where it's late in the fourth quarter and they're running the ball, they're bleeding clock, and Chris Lindstrom just kind of motions to the sideline, like, just keep going, keep running it. And Michael Penix kind of said, everything starts with the offensive line. He said that during the week. He said that again today, and it starts with the run game as well. Everything that the Falcons want to do bleeds off of what they do in the run game and what they specifically do with Bijan Robinson. So the fact that they were able to have the success that they did running the ball tonight, even though they weren't getting in the end zone, which Michael Penix also kind of talked about that and what the Vikings were doing inside the red zone and how they were executing. Those were all things that he spoke about as well. But he was like, to have the run game have such a significant jump in production from week 1 to week 2 just shows, one, how much the Falcons wanted to get back to their bread and butter, which they were able to do tonight, but also, two, how much they would just rely on it and how good it was to get that jump started and how that could look moving forward.
Yeah, I thought it was a big credit to the offensive line, Charlie Warner, all those guys who have a significant role in the run game. And yeah, it was a shame, they didn't get more of those red zone touchdowns, but to possess the ball as much as they did to kind of, I think, keep the defense fresh, to allow the defense to continue to be on its front foot all throughout the night in what was a defensive-led game was important. And that is another value, if not talked about, with the run game. It allows you to kind of, when you need to slow down and take a breather, you hopefully can. But what did Mike have to say about what the Vikings were doing in the red zone specifically?
Yeah, so when the field shrinks like that, it's like the margin of error shrinks too. And he kind of talked about they were out executing them in the red zone. And I think that's like the main point that he made. He didn't really get into too many specifics, but he just kind of said like they brought it in the red zone. And the Falcons were just having a hard time getting anything going in the red zone that ultimately turned into 6 points on the board. And I think that he did say, he was like, I do need to go back and I need to watch it. That's something that always comes up, I feel like, in these post-game press conferences, is that
Yeah.
like it's so fresh. It's really difficult to like really hone in on specific issues or specific things that popped up. But he did say that ultimately it's an execution thing. And he also kind of talked about the early in the game and the crowd noise and the procedural penalties. And he actually said like, that's on me. That's on that.
Oh,
He
gotcha.
kind of took a lot of responsibility for those. And he said it was a miscommunication kind of on his end as well. And so he's like, those are things that we need to clean up. Red zone production is something that they need to clean up. So he was very open and honest about the miscues that the offense had, but also feeling like they do have an opportunity to move forward in a better space.
Yeah, I've got two more for you. So we'll move quickly through these two, but I on the broadcast view, I couldn't see the coverage. I know this is something your keen eye
Mm,
is always looking for. Were they taking away Drake and Darnell because it was not a big
yeah.
night from those two guys?
Yeah, so they were kind of doing something similar to what Tampa was doing, where they were putting a cap on they were going
It
to,
felt very similar. It's just like there's
yes,
nothing downfield.
nothing downfield. They were completely taking that away. I also think that they were doing a good job, especially early in the first half in totality of there were not a lot of routes that were able to manifest. There weren't a lot of guys
Gotcha.
getting to the top of their routes simply because of the pressure that was on Michael Penix, like within zero point 0.2 seconds. Like
Yeah.
it felt like in the moment, I'm going to have to go back and watch, but it felt like, especially in the first three quarters, that the pressure was on Michael Penix from the get go. And I think that kind of coupled with the whole fact that they were really taking away the deep threat. I think teams know that that's what the Falcons want to do. They want to push the ball down the field with Michael Penix and the arm talent that he has. So them taking that away, it kind of reinforces that the Falcons have to really truly rely on their run game to be their generator for production. If they're going to take away the explosives downfield for Michael Penix Jr., like they have to counteract that with some short, quick outs, which you saw them do very early in the first half, and also the run game just taking over in the second half and really bleeding that clock down when it was a pretty close game up until the very, very end.
Yeah, I said up top, the Falcons have showed tonight they can win when forced to play left-handed. I forgot at the time Michael Penix is actually left-handed, but, it's beside the fact. Really quick, did Raheem Morris have any update on AJ Terrell?
No update on AJ Terrell. It is a hamstring injury, which I'm pretty sure everybody knows that. But I imagine with those soft tissue injuries, I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of go through the week and we don't really know that much about his status overall. It'll be something to monitor for sure, though.
And that is the whistle. All right, Tori, you've got a bus to catch.
I
Thank you
do.
for taking time to hop on. We're going to try to do this for away games this season. So this was a successful first go. Great team win. Enjoy. Have a safe flight back.
Thank you. I'll see y'all in Atlanta.
All right, we have heard from Tori. We are back for the fourth quarter, and I just am so awestruck, frankly, by Bijan Robinson. And I shouldn't be by this point because I've seen it and I shouldn't be surprised. And yet I still am every single time I watch him do what he does. I mean, whether it's the first play, whether it's kind of the third play where it was like a inside zone that he bounced outside and he just slips tackles. And every single time he does stuff that is so electrifying. So I just kind of started thinking about who in my life have I seen who is capable of putting up, 168 yards in a given game from scrimmage. That's his third most in his career, by the way. And it's a short list of players pretty much from the 21st century, because that's the time that my memory is watching the Falcons works. So I'm just going to kind of share them with you here. I guess it's maybe in some kind of particular order, but it not too much thought was given to this, right? But Allen Rossum was a guy who kind of came to mind as a former returner. He was just one of the most dynamic return men in the league during his era. And as a kid, I loved watching him. My mom called him Awesome Rossum. And so I always just kind of loved him for that reason as well. Brent Grimes, who the matchup between Calvin Johnson and Brent Grimes Optimus Grimes versus Megatron. Oh my God, that was legendary. He could jump out of the building. I mean, he has to be on this list. Julio Jones, of course, right? Like he still, I think, has the most 250 plus yard games in NFL history. That diving touchdown against Tampa was incredible. The leaping catch over Luke Kuechly was incredible. Like his first touchdown against Indianapolis was incredible. Then Bijan Robinson, he's on this list. What he did tonight, outstanding, just outstanding. He's added an element to his game as a receiver that I really, really like as well. Michael Vick, he's obviously first on this list, right? He is Mr. Electric, Mr. Dynamic as an Atlanta Falcon. But Bijan Robinson is on that list. I mean, I had him number 2. You could quibble with Julio. Maybe Taylor Gabriel's on this list. You know, there's some other names that come to mind. Antone Smith, deep cut out there for y'all. But Bijan Robinson is on the shortest possible list of no freaking way they just did that players in Falcons history. So wanted to share that with you guys because he deserves just a little bit more of a shout out in this episode for what he did tonight. But now I want to bring on a very special member of our podcast network. He's been behind the scenes, absolutely kicking butt for us. It is Jared Call. Jared, producer Jared, as we have called you on the show before. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Classic producer with the crappy audio setup, so don't mind that. But yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me on. It's good to get a voice on the airwaves, I guess.
There you go. Yeah. What'd you think of tonight's game?
It was electric. A lot of people, I think a lot of my family were reaching out being like, wow, what a snoozer for a Sunday night football game. But the defense was not snoozing. This was absolutely electric. It was so fun to see Billy Bowman, Xavier Watts get their first NFL picks. You got your first sacks for James Pierce Jr. and Jalen Walker. Like it was absolutely electric. I was a little bit worried in the first half. I think we all were going into halftime after the Monday Night Football game last week with JJ McCarthy leading this big second half comeback. The down 2 scores in the fourth quarter. Like I was a little bit nervous, but the Falcons they did not let up. The pass rush. I mean, apart from the big pass to Justin Jefferson's right before halftime, like that was really it for the Vikings offense. So I was really, really impressed with the Falcons defense tonight.
That's such a great point because, you know, when they stalled out in the red zone in the first half a few times, I just kept thinking to myself, man, that other shoe is dropping, right? This always happens is you leave those missed opportunities on the table and the other team comes back and makes you pay eventually. This is the NFL. We know what this is. We've seen this movie before, Jared. And especially last week with what JJ McCarthy did, one of the first notes I wrote down in the first quarter was, all right, JJ's got some Baker to him. Because it was kind of that first scramble where he stuck the ball out there at the last second. And I was like, oh, he's got some sneaky little to him. And man, credit again to Parker Romo. Just like in those moments, what you have to do is just keep adding points. When you have an opportunity, at least it's not 0. You're getting 3, right? So to just have that drumbeat, what did you think of Parker Romo tonight?
I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Like it was, it was the post-game interview they're doing with Romo. He's standing next to like Leonard Floyd, Bijan Robinson. He didn't even know Leonard Floyd's name. Like this guy has been here for less than a week and he comes in and just nails with 5 field goals. Like what a crazy performance by him, especially the big, was it 54 yarder?
Yeah.
To come in, nail that, like, man, just absolutely nails tonight for him. It's really, really crazy the turnaround that we had from special teams being one of the contributing factors to the loss last week to this week being almost the entirety of the points scored by the Atlanta Falcons. Really big turnaround.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really hard, I think, to beat out Brandon Aubrey, but man, I would love to see Parker Romo get NFC Special Teams Player of the Week for this performance because he deserves it, dude. Like, again, I know I keep mentioning the environment, but like to do this in Minnesota, in that stadium, was incredible, Jared.
Yep. And we saw the crowd was affecting everybody, just wasn't affecting Parker Romo. He was absolutely locked in.
He was so locked in. So again, no idea where this leaves thing kicking wise, but Parker Romo, hats off to you. Hats off to the whole Falcons. There's our final whistle. Hats off to you all for listening to this show. We appreciate you. If you're whistling while you work, we appreciate you even more. So for Will McFadden, Tori McElhaney, Jared Call joining us, Falcons win 22-6. We can all rest easy for the week. And they got the Carolina Panthers up next. So Falcons Audible, Friday 5, on tap for you this week. Check out all the coverage at AtlantaFalcons.com. Until next time, everybody, take care.